Plastics is so cheap, it's so convenient, and it's so embedded in all of our lifestyles.
The idea of a plastic circular economy is obviously to keep plastics out of the environment and in the economy, but that's easier said than done.
It's not just animals like sea turtles, whales, seabirds that are affected by this new problem of plastic pollution, it's us. So we find plastic pollution, microplastics, for example, in tap water, in beer, in seafood that we put in front of our families and our children.
Plastic pollution has become a global problem. It's not limited to a specific geography. It's not limited to a particular stage in the life cycle of plastic. And the impacts are just enormous. They're not just transboundary in nature, but they're intergenerational.
Countries in East Asia are highly vulnerable to climate. And what plastic does is that it clogs landfills and sewage and drainage systems, and so accentuates the risks of flooding, which really worsens the climate vulnerabilities of these countries.
We have so many tons of plastic along all the coastlines and everything. So we have a lot of legacy waste. So it's too late for reduce, right? So this is how recycling comes in. So we have to take care of the legacy waste plus what's being generated.
Part of the action and the solution should also be about really priming up and supporting the strong emergence and well-functioning of recycled markets.
Managing used plastic as a valuable resource rather than as a waste which needs to be discarded as cheaply as possible.
The plastic industry said in the 90s that this is not waste, this is raw material, this valuable raw material. Nothing has happened. It always, the oil prices go down and then this recycling thing is not viable anymore. But now the stars are better aligned with the consumer sentiment changing tremendously, legislation and the pledges from companies. So now there is a much better opportunity and momentum to make this happen.
In many ways, countries that are the largest contributors to the problem have a really exciting opportunity to be the most significant leaders in creating solutions. And that's, I think, how we need to pivot to be thinking about this issue.
I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for refill and reuse. Hong Kong, for instance, we are seeing lots of innovation on foodware being reusable. In countries like Indonesia and the Philippines, we're actually seeing soy sauce and oil still coming in a lot of reusable and refillable solutions. And these are absolutely a fantastic way of actually reaching communities.
In many developed markets, the US and Europe, we had probably 100 years of economic development to build our waste management infrastructure. In most parts of the emerging world, we've had 10 to 15 years. It's obvious that investment in infrastructure hasn't kept pace. As a result, there's been this vacuum and it's been left to the informal sector, waste pickers, scavengers that are sort of on the front lines of plastic pollution prevention, and the ones their livelihoods depend on trading plastic. So there's a whole other component of how do you develop collection systems that recognize where those problems and challenges and risks are, and also use this as a tool for economic development and improve livelihoods as part of developing these supply chains. And that's complicated development work, no question about it.
And I'd say, a lot of important leadership that needs to be had from business, that's the producers of plastic, to set stronger and more ambitious goals for reducing plastic, government to help catalyze some of that business action, and actually be bold about trying to foster this transition to a post-plastic future through thinking about new kinds of legislation to support new kinds of materials, and also to think about what kinds of bans we might have on plastics that are clearly harmful and clearly should be replaced. And then community action, cleaning up plastic and working on education to help each of us in our own households and communities and reduce that leakiness in these waste management systems, think about alternatives to plastic use.
I think especially during lockdown, we've seen a lot of intersections when it comes to sustainability and environmental justice and climate change. So being able to kind of connect them all with this web, I think has really showed us that, we're all really in this together, and there is no one solution to this issue, but that we all have to tackle these issues from all sides and all different angles.